Day trading involves a series of transactions that generate a vast amount of information. This day trading tracker consolidates that information and becomes a powerful trading tool. It calculates risk and reward statistics per trade that emulate a built-in position size calculator. As you enter the order, stop, and amount of money you're willing to risk per trade, the tracker automatically calculates insights such as the target price, the percentage of your account risked, the risk per share and position, as well as a guide for the maximum number of shares to purchase. It provides hypothetical scenarios for the maximum profit and loss of your trade at the maximum shares and your actual shares traded. Once you enter the exit price and fees charged, you get the performance and a win or loss indicator. This is all transferred to a dashboard that summarizes your trades and the relevant information they carry. Here you can see the win rate, the average return per trade, and your top trades. All these charts are dynamic and linked to the analysis tables below. There's a daily profit and loss chart for the specified year, where you get the details of the final results every day. For more detail, there's a monthly analysis table that provides insights such as win rate, top and average trades, as well as a risk and reward analysis. As you can see, by clicking the yearly dropdown, you can easily change the year you want to analyze and everything changes. The yearly screener adds up all the numbers and you can select any indicator to get a total per year, as well as a cumulative total since you started recording the trades. This tracker offers crucial risk and reward information in a digestible way that will hopefully give you a better understanding of your trades. This will help you manage your risk and efficiently monitor the performance of your decisions or your trading software parameters. If you would like to skip the tutorial and access this ready-to-use tracker in light, dark, matrix, and cyberpunk theme, make sure to visit my Patreon, which is linked in the description of this video. As always, these include a mobile tab where you can see the same insights in a smartphone interface. Now, let's learn how to build this day trading tracker from the beginning. Okay, so step number 1, we're going to go to Google Sheets. And we're going to start a blank new spreadsheet. So we're going to start off with the transaction sheet. So what you want to do is go to cell A4. Here's where we're going to enter all the column titles. I'm going to enter them all and you can just pause the video and write them there as well. Okay, so it's quite a few columns that we added. So it's all the way to column AG. So what you want to do next is select all of them and then row 5 as well. And what we're going to do is click this symbol here, that it's the wrap. We want to align them in the middle and we also want to center them. What you want to do next with the first one is select rows 4 and 5 and then click merge. So what you're going to do is click this symbol, which is the paint format, and we're going to select all of these. So now all of them are merged in rows 4 and 5. I did it all the way to column M because in column N we're going to do something different. We're going to merge these two columns instead of the rows. Same with percentage risk per position. For these two we also merge the rows. Same with this one, merge those two columns, and the max loss as stop. And then for the rest of these you can also merge the rows. Now in cell C1 we're going to enter the starting balance, at the bottom the actual balance, and then the profit or loss. And you want to merge these two. We're going to merge these two as well. Here's where the values are going to be entered. And finally from G all the way to AG and those 3 rows we're going to merge them. And here's where we're going to enter the title. Okay, so before we start entering all the formulas, what I'm going to do is enter a few dummy transactions similar to the ones in the demo so that we can see how as we enter formulas the numbers change, just so that we know that all the formulas are working correctly. And there are quite a lot of columns here, so what you want to do is make the zoom 90% just so that you have a larger view of everything. So we're going to make the columns narrower so you can see most of the information without having to scroll right and left. What I'm going to do first is center them all. So I'm going to select all the data as well as all the other rows and center them so they look better now. So we're going to go to cell K4 and K5, and what we want to do is change the format of this cell here. We want it to say something specific besides just the number, so we're going to go to this symbol 1 2 3 and click custom number format, and here we're going to enter this custom format. So quotations, risk factor, quotations, then number, then again quotations, and then enter an X. When you click apply, you can see that now we get this title, but just for the 2 that we entered. So if I enter 4, it says risk factor 4x. So it's a nice way to format the title of your column, and it makes it very dynamic where you can enter any number that you want. So we're going to start with the first formula, which is the target price. We're going to enter it here, but these 2 columns are meant to go together. So we're going to merge these 2. And what you want to do is click the format symbol, and then in the keyboard, press Shift, Command, or Shift Control, and then the down arrow. So it goes all the way to the bottom, and now you can see that these 2 columns are now merged for each of the rows until row 1000. And as you can see, this formula is capturing the number that we entered here in this cell. In this case, it's 2. And it's multiplying it by the difference between the order and the stop, and then adding again the order. So it's a simple calculation to get a target price based on the risk factor that you entered. This here is basically saying that our target price is going to be double, because we entered 2, the amount of risk that we took for this specific trade. So now you can just copy it and drag it down all the way to the bottom. And by the way, all the formulas that I'm entering are going to be shared in a formula sheet that will be available in the description of this video. So all you have to do is simply go to that formula sheet, copy the formulas, and then paste them in the exact same cells where I'm pasting them. So it will just save you some time when you're building this tracker. For the account balance, the first one, we want it linked to the starting balance. So we're going to enter hypothetical $10,000 as a starting balance. And then in the second row, or I mean the 7th row, we're going to enter this formula. So it's taking this one and then adding up Y6. Column Y6, as you can see, is the profit or loss. It's currently going to be the same because we haven't entered a formula here. But once we get there, you can see the account balances will change. This formula here simply divides the risk with the account balance just to get a percentage of the account that we risked. So in this case, as you can see, $50 is only 0.5% of $10,000. So these values that we're calculating, they all emulate a position size calculator. So it's just a good way to understand the risk that you're taking for every trade. So it's good to see the percentage of the account that you're risking, the dollar amount you're risking per share, and the percentage of money risked per position. So as you can see, we have a column for the order amount and then for the buy amount, just in case there's some slippage. So, you know, sometimes you might order something at $90.20, but when the order goes in and it's confirmed, it might be $90.21. So it's good just to see the difference between the two and understand that slippage as well as the risk. This is one of my favorite columns because it tells you the maximum number of shares to purchase based on the risk that you entered. So as you can see, the formula looks at the order and stop, and then it figures out how many shares you should actually buy based on that risk that you entered. Once we calculate the maximum shares to purchase, then we can get the maximum cost that it would be to purchase all these shares. So as you can see, the formula multiplies the maximum shares by the order. So these two columns here, they're very important and they can be used as a guide to understand, you know, how much cost you're incurring whenever you enter a trade. And if you were to follow this exact amount of shares that it's telling you to buy, then this would be the cost. Sometimes you might not follow the exact amount of shares that it tells you to purchase based on that risk because maybe you can't afford it or you decide to buy less. And that's okay, because then we can calculate here the actual cost based on what you purchased with your order. So in this case, we're looking at the exact cost of what you bought. As you can see, they all look negative at the moment. And the reason for this is because we're linking it to column AA, which is the type. And it's currently empty, so the formulas aren't very precise. So what we're going to do is go to type, and we're going to enter this formula that basically analyzes the difference between order and stop. If the order is greater than the stop amount, then it means it's a long position. Otherwise, it'll be a short. So as you can see, now that we entered the type, the formula here changes, and this is the maximum profit you will get if the share hits the target price that we calculated earlier. These two columns are also very useful I think all of them are useful, but these are really good because you can see already as soon as you enter your trade, it can tell you how much potential profit you will make if you followed the maximum number of shares. And if not, if you enter a different one, it'll also tell you the maximum profit that you might get if the trade works successfully. And it does the same with the loss. So what is the maximum loss that you could incur with this trade? So these two are pretty useful to understand that risk that you're taking and how much you could potentially earn or lose. And then in column Y, we calculate the actual profit or loss by analyzing the amount you bought and then the amount you sold, which also includes any fees that you might have taken. Usually some fees are applied if you keep the trade open over 24 hours, or maybe if it's a short. So it's just good to have that column there in case you have any fees to include that in the performance. And this is a pretty simple formula that keeps the result open if we haven't sold a trade yet, and just analyzes the profit or loss to see whether it's a win or a loss. And then we have these 4 columns here at the end that we're gonna hide later. But essentially I'm breaking down the date that we entered here at the beginning just for the dashboard for filtering purposes. So as you might have seen in other of my trackers, there's always an option to filter the date by month or year, or even potentially all, if you want to see data from all time. And it just really helps a lot to understand the breakdown of your performance for every different period. So what we're going to do is hide these later. At the moment, I'm going to leave them like this because we might need it when we're working on the dashboard. Lastly, we're going to work on the profit and loss and the actual balance. So I'm going to first enter a formula for the profit and loss where we're just adding up all of column Y. And for the actual balance, we simply add up the starting balance with the profit and loss. And that is the transaction section. Before I move on to the dashboard, I'm going to quickly format this to the way it was formatted in the demo. Okay, so I quickly formatted the transactions tab. As you can see, I just added some colors to a few of the cells and some borders. I usually like to color the columns where I need to enter data in a dark blue. I added some conditional formatting to the profit and loss. So if you go to format, conditional formatting, you can see that I entered a simple conditional format rule, which is if the value is greater than 0, you make it green, or if the value is less than 0, you make it red. I applied that same conditional format rule for the actual profit and loss and the return on investment. As you can see, I added a similar one to the result, but this one is with text. So if the text is exactly a win, you make it green. If it's a loss, make it red, and if it's open, you make it yellow/orange. One more conditional format rule that I added was to these cells that have formulas. I shaded them light gray because we don't need to enter data there. If the cell is not empty, then make it gray. So whenever it's empty, it's just going to be white. But then whenever we enter data here, these will obviously automatically populate and they'll be shaded light gray automatically. And that is it for the transactions tab. What we're going to do is work on the dashboard now. So we're just going to add a new sheet or a new tab and call it the dashboard. We're going to start with the tables that go at the bottom. The first thing to do is just make column A tiny bit smaller, and then cell B26, we're going to enter the year. So go to cell B26, click data validation, and we're going to select the data range. So we're going to go to transactions, scroll all the way to the right, and as you can see, we've got the year here. So all you have to do is select it all, remove those last rows so it selects the whole column, and click OK. And now we get a drop down with all the unique years available. So now you can just click one or the other. And the objective of this is to link all the data that we're going to enter below to this one here. So it's dynamic and it changes as per what we choose. Currently it says there's an issue with it, and all you have to do is just make it a plain text and it shouldn't have an error anymore. So you want to go to cell B28, and here we're going to enter equals. We're going to select the year, so 2021, and then you want to enter the and symbol, then quotations, space, dash, space, daily profit or loss, and close quotations. So I entered it as a formula because I like the titles to change. So whenever we change this to another year, you can see that the title changes as well. Now you want to go to cell C29 and enter this formula. It looks like I had it linked to D26. So what we're going to do is select this and move it to cell D26, and we're going to merge these two. We're going to link it back to D26 And as you can see, we get all the months that are in the year of 2021 that we entered. We're using a combination of transpose with unique and query to scan through the transactions and select the months that contain 2021 in column AF, which is where we enter the breakdown of the date. And then in cell B30, we're going to enter this formula. And then in cell B31, we're going to enter this formula that just grabs the number above and adds 1. So what you want to do is drag this number down all the way until 31. And now to populate this table, we're going to use a magical formula, which is sumifs. I love this formula. It's really good. So basically we're adding up column Y, which is the actual profit and loss. And the conditions for this is that they should match this specific day as well as this specific month. So as you click enter, you can see that there was a transaction on the 1st of July that gave us a profit or loss of $17. So if we go to transactions, you can see there's one on the 1st of July and there's the profit, $17.40 on the 1st of July. So all you have to do now is drag this all the way to column N and then drag it down. So now it tells us all our trades per day to understand the profit or loss that we had on each specific day. And then here what we're going to do is simply use the sum formula to add up all these numbers just to get a total of each month. So now we're going to work on the monthly analysis table. So again, we're going to link it to D26, which is the year. So in cell P30, we're going to use the exact same formula that we used in cell C29, but in this case, we're removing the transpose because we want it to go down vertically instead of horizontally. As you can see, again, we get all the months, and whenever we change this to 2022, the months will change for both daily profit and monthly analysis. Now we just use a sumif formula for all of these specific columns to get the numbers that we want. So in this case, we're adding up all the profit and loss that we got for the month of July 2021. And you want to drag it down to row 41. This is going to be the totals row. So I'm just going to link the year. And once I complete this table with all the formulas, we'll work on the totals row. So yeah, very useful statistics here in the monthly analysis table that can help you monitor basically that performance per month. Now let's work on the totals row. Please note that a few of the formulas in this totals section will be different. So as you can see, the return on investment for these, they're capturing a month. And because it's a month, it's looking at the column AE, which is the month. But then this one, you see the column changes to AF because now it's scanning the year, not the month. I'll write all of this in the formula sheet, but it's just good to know that this row might have different formulas. So again, if you change this to 2022, everything else will change. So that is the monthly analysis table. Okay, now we're going to go to cell AE27, and the third table that we're going to work on is the yearly screener. And this is a very useful table if you like to see your overall numbers as well as per year. Just once you start entering data, for multiple years, it'll be very useful. So in cell AE28, you're going to enter all. And I don't know if you remember, but in transactions, here we entered all. And the reason why is because we want to add up and analyze all the data without any filters. That's why I entered this here. And we're also going to do it per year. That's why the years are here. So as you can see, we're going to have all here. And then at the bottom, we're going to have the years. So for the years, I'm just going to enter a unique and filter formula to get the unique years that we've got in column AF. So at the moment, 2021 and 2022. So in cell AF29, we're going to go to data validation, and the range that we're going to enter is these here. So profit all the way to average risk and reward. Click OK. This is the screener, so you can choose any of the statistics that we've got here. And basically what I'm going to do with the formulas is add them all up per year, specifically for the field that we choose. So this is a pretty crazy formula that took me a while to create, but I don't know, it works. It fully works. If someone is analyzing this tracker and figures out a better way to do it, feel free to message me and we'll improve it for the next generation. It works perfectly. We're basically using the if statement, so multiple if statements to capture specific data that we want whenever the field that we enter changes. So as you can see, we currently have $774 for the year 2021 in profit and loss. And as you can see, it does match this one here. And then when we change this to say return on investment, it gives us 0.77. Let's test the trades, 23 trades, 23 trades. So that matches. And now we're just gonna drag this formula all the way to row 42. If you have more years, you can feel free to keep dragging it down. I'm just gonna drag it down to 42. And as you can see, we got 3 trades in 2022. So if I change this to 2022 to confirm it, yeah, we got 3 trades. And just to confirm the transaction, here we got 3 trades in 2022. So yeah, it's a really cool screener that tells us, you know, the totals for each of the fields that we have for the specific year. I would love to add some formatting here, like a $sign or a percentage when it's a percentage, but I couldn't figure it out, because if you change this to a percentage, yeah, it works out fine, but then if we change it to profit and loss, it gives us this, because the format is changing. You know, we have fields that have $signs and fields that have percentages. So I prefer to just keep it as automatic. It's not the best view that you can get, but it works perfectly fine. So that's what we have at the moment. We're gonna enter this formula, which is exactly the same, but instead of selecting the year, we're selecting all, and then obviously the column that we're scanning is different. It's now AG, which is the column where we entered all. So now we get the totals. So again, if you change the field, this one changes as well. So it's a very useful screener to see those total numbers. Okay, and now that we have these 3 tables, we can continue working with the rest of the dashboard. So we're going to scroll to the top, and in cell B14, we're going to enter the total wins. Now we're going to go to cell P3 and enter the day trading summary. So starting balance, we're going to link it to our starting balance here. Actual balance, we're going to do the same, link it to this one, as well as the profit and loss, because that's already calculated in the transactions. This table here is really cool because we're going to get statistics on the wins and losses again, but now we're going to divide them by short and long, just so that you can understand how many short positions you're taking and how many long positions, and see in which one you're performing better. So here we're going to use several countifs and sumifs formula by using 2 criteria. So the first one is if it's a win, and the second one if it's a short. And this one we use the same criteria but with sumifs formula to get the amount of wins that we got in the short positions. Now in cell AC3, we're going to enter the top ticker trades by cost. So that is it for the skeleton of this dashboard. It looks pretty empty because it hasn't been formatted and we're still missing all the charts, but they're pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is quickly format this, and then I'll be right back so we can continue working on the rest of the charts. Okay, so I'm back, and as you can see, I just added some borders and colors to each of the tables. As you can see, the conditional formatting is quite similar to the one I showed you in transactions. So if I quickly show you conditional formatting, you can see that if the value is greater than 0, make it green. If not, then red. For these, I didn't really add specific conditional formatting because wins will always be green and losses will always be red. Okay, so let's start with the first chart. So you're gonna go to Insert, Chart, and for the chart type, we wanna select the line chart and the data range. I'm gonna remove this, go to Transactions, and select column Y all the way to the bottom. So remove those rows, so it's open, click OK, and we get this nice line graph. For the second chart, we're gonna go to Insert, Chart. We're gonna remove all of these, and we want to select the stacked column chart. So go to this one, stacked column chart. For the data range, you want to select total wins and total losses, and then the wins with the losses. And sorry, you meant to select this one, stacked column chart. I selected this one, that is 100%. It's meant to be this one, stacked column chart. So you want to use row 14 as headers, and as you can see, it just tells us the amount of wins that we had and then the amount that was in losses. Okay, so now the third chart. In this one, we want a donut chart, and the data range that you're going to choose is the total wins and total losses from B14 to E15. Okay, let's go with the fourth chart. The data range that you want for this one is from P29, so the month, and then the profit, all the way to row 41. So now for the fifth chart, quite similar, but instead of column chart, we're going to use a stacked column chart. And the data range that you want to choose for that one is from month all the way to losses. And we have several values there, but we're going to remove all of them, and we only want to have the wins and the losses. We're just missing one last chart here, and here we're going to enter an area chart. And for this one, the data range, we're going to select it from transactions. So go to transactions and select column A, and then we're going to select the account balance. So before we finish, I'm just going to quickly test it with a new transaction. So as you can see, I entered this trade in February and all the formulas are working correctly. Thank you and see you next time. I hope this really helped you, and stay tuned for the next tracker. Feel free to send me feedback and we'll improve it in a second generation tracker. Thank you very much. This is Planet Finance. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, happy learning.